Okay, when I do my binding strips, I do them 2.5 inches wide, and then you press them in half together so that the wrong sides are together. Now, when I sew my binding, I use my 1/4 inch foot, and I line up the binding and the edge of my quilt beside it. Now, I'm doing it on the top of my quilt because I'm going to hand stitch it in the back. You're going to do the same steps, except for you're going to stitch it to the back because you're going to machine stitch it on top. So now I'm going to keep sewing till I get 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the quilt. So it'll be about here. Now your foot should have a tiny little line on the presser foot. So when that line gets there, it means your needle is 1/4 of an inch away. But if you don't have that line, just eyeball it. So I'm just going to keep sewing. And now my line is right at the edge of my quilt, so my needle is 1/4 of an inch away. Now I'm going to raise my needle, and I'm going to raise my presser foot, and I'm going to pull it out just a little bit to turn around the corner. So to turn around the corner, you want to pull this out this way so that this edge and this edge goes in a straight line. And if you've sewn not quite far enough like this, that's okay, just so long as you line it up so that it's square. Then you're going to bring this back over top so that it's even with this end, and this underneath part that's folded over is even with the top, and this is even with the outside. So I'm just going to move this in a little bit, and then I'm going to tuck this right back underneath, turn my quilt, and start sewing the other way. So now I would keep doing that all the way around the quilt, and I'll just show you what happens with that corner after you've stitched it that way. When your corner is stitched that way and you fold it over, you see that there's a nice mitered corner right there. So after you've stitched around the corner, the reason you do it that way is because when you fold this over to stitch it, you get this nice mitered corner right here. So on the back side, you're going to fold this like this, and you're going to fold this like this, and you want a mitered corner on this side too. So just keep playing and folding your corners till you get just a nice 45-degree turn. So when you sew by machine, you're going to sew close to the edge here and close to the edge here all the way around. So this corner isn't, very nicely done. So I would just keep working at it so it's nice and even, a nice even 45 degrees. So you don't want it sticking out here. You want this even with this corner, and you want this 45 degrees. So when you started sewing your binding, you left a tail and started sewing here and went around. When you come around the other way before you finish, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to leave a tail. So now I'm going to show you how to join them with a miter instead of just butting them up like you did last time. So to do your mitered corner, you want it to overlap, and the amount of overlap is exactly the width of your binding strip. So just take your binding strip, put it right at the end here, and then this is where you're going to cut it, right here. So it will overlap this much. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine to show you how to sew it. So we've opened up our binding strips and we've laid it out one on top of the other in an L shape, just like you did when you joined your binding strips together. So now we're going to sew from this corner to this corner. If you want, you can draw a line on it and sew on the line, but I just eyeball it. I just put a couple of pins, one on either side, so it holds that in place, just because of it being twisted from coming off of the table runner. So I'm going to go ahead now and sew that line. And now when I take the pins out and open it up, it just opens up just like that, a nice straight line. So you're going to go to your iron and you're going to press this open and you're going to cut it, and then press this down again, and then just like magic, when all that bulk is gone, you can just finish sewing where you left off. So it's going to be one continuous strip. Then turn it and start sewing your binding on with the machine. That's it.